strong, empowered, authentic.
What's up, Ginger Nation? This is Tosh.
This is Darren, and you are listening to the Authentic
Ginger Podcast. Welcome to the Authentic Ginger Podcast. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Darren Roach, and I am by the way, welcome Ginger Nation. I thought I'd say that today because I just haven't said that in a long time. So yes, my name is Darren Roach, and today we have someone very special on the show that we're really excited to have on it. We've been waiting for, November 5th of 2020. Yeah, to about 2.5 years now, we've been waiting for a conversation with someone of this profession. Today we have on the show Katerina Zorina-Lichtenwalter, who's a postdoctoral fellow at the Institute for Behavior Genetics at the University of Colorado Boulder. Welcome to the show, Katerina. I hope I got that right?
Yeah, you did great, Darren. Thanks very much. It's
awesome.
A pleasure to be here.
It's a very much pleasure to have you. And as I said, we're really excited about today's show because we're talking about genes. We're talking about genes, and specifically the MC1R gene. I can't wait to get into it. So I'd love to kind of have maybe you give us and our audience a background of what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. So as I was telling Tosh a minute ago, I actually did this 3 years ago for my PhD. I made a list of genes that were involved in pain. And one of those genes was MC1R, which encodes the melanocortin receptor 1, which has a really strong effect on whether hair will be red or not. And so I studied this gene in the context of what it does for pain, but while doing that, I came across a really interesting effect, the genetic statistical effect that it has. And so I wrote a paper about it. And probably the most interesting part from that paper is that there was this debate about whether people with red hair are more or less sensitive to pain. And we found in our study that the answer is neither, because it's not the red hair variants, it's not the variants that cause red hair that are tied to pain sensitivity. It's other variants that just happen to be carried together with the red hair variants.
First, because I'm a nosy person, I wanted to know what got you interested in learning about pain?
I think like most people, I had a personal reason. My mom has always suffered from chronic migraines, and I wanted to actively work on research that would eventually lead to alleviating that suffering for her and many other people.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your paper. Like you said, you started it based on that gene, and then it just so happens that the red hair got kind of lumped into it. Can you, like, for the layman, let's explain, if you can, the genetics of the gene and red hair?
Sure. So for traits that are complex, such as hair color, eye color, skin color, any personality traits, any behavioral traits, we expect to have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of genes contributing. So it was really exciting to find that for red hair, there is only one gene that it doesn't have 100% say in the hair color, but it has a lot. It is definitely a very weighty contributor. So MC1R is a receptor that is expressed in melanocytes, cells called melanocytes, where if this receptor is activated by the hormone that binds to it, it signals for the production of a specific pigment. So by default, melanocytes produce phenylalanine, which is a reddish yellowish pigment. And when MC1R is turned on by the binding of its hormone, it signals for the switch from the production of this lighter color pigment to a darker pigment called eumelanin. And so basically, what we believe our ancestors had was a robust function of this receptor such that there was always enough of the brown pigment being produced. And then at some point, a variation in the genetic code was introduced, arose just by chance in this genetic locus in MC1R that caused a reduction in the function of MC1R. So it still works, it just works less and it signals less. And so there's less of the brown pigment being produced. And that results, from what we could see in people having lighter skin, red hair, and sometimes it also affects eye color, like green specifically has been observed more among people with these variants in MC1R.
So someone like Darren, for example, who I believe is a natural blonde, but has he carries the gene and or shows it in his beard, and that will happen with a lot of men, right? They'll be brunette, but all of a sudden they decide to grow a beard and they've got a red beard. How does that work? Because you wouldn't necessarily have ever called them a ginger, but then all of a sudden their beard comes out and you're like, wait a second, you're a ginger.
It's rusty.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. Actually, yeah, my own father is like a brunette, but then when he grows a beard, there are red hairs in it. I never thought about this, but I would imagine that it has to do with like a slightly different, so it wouldn't be all red hair, right? Like it wouldn't be the whole beard that's red. It's usually just select hairs. So
Right.
Yeah, there's something different about the melanocytes that are expressed in that, or that are found in that part of the body, in that part of the face, that is, again, based on what we know, is making that MC1R function a little bit less and results in a little bit less of the brown pigment expressing that as red.
Is the hair in your head the same as the hair in your beard or on the rest of your body? Is it, in other words, can the receptor, because we see some brunettes that have rusty beards or blondes that have rusty beards, can I hopefully I'm saying this correctly, can the receptor only be within the beard or the hair within the beard, or is it all in one encompassing receptor for your entire body when you're born?
So the cells that express MC1R that produce pigments are found everywhere.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering.
In our skin, in our eyes, and on our head. So it's a matter of how much of the brown pigment is expressed in that given area that dictates, again, the color of the eyes and the color of the skin and the color of the hair in different parts. So my guess would be that it's the melanosomes, like the specific cellular organelle that stores these pigments, that differ in their, either in number or, probably in number, because like for eyes, we know that the fewer melanosomes with the dark pigment result in lighter looking eyes.
Blue eyes and red hair are they say, and I don't know who they are, but we have heard, or we've discovered in our own sort of findings throughout the last couple of years with this podcast, that blue eyes and red hair is one of the rarest combinations. And when you say that this, is it melanoma? I can't say the word.
Melanosomes?
Yes. Is that, and you mentioned something about the eyes with that as well. So is there something behind blue eyes and red hair that you can think of, or that you might have seen in your study?
So Eye color is primarily determined by other genes. MC1R does not have very much say in eye color, which unfortunately means that I did not look at eye color
Of
almost
course.
at all because I was
Right.
only interested in MC1R.
That's right.
I just, yeah, as I was looking stuff up in preparation for this conversation, I did see that there's like a weak link that somebody reported between MC1R and green hair. Green, green eye color.
Right.
But I can't comment beyond that.
Yeah. Tosh, you have green eyes, right?
I have hazel eyes.
Hazel
yeah.
eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just I just always assumed genetics. My mom has hazel eyes. My dad has brown eyes. I get ginger from both sides of the family. So I had never put too much thought into it at all. You grow up, if you're not going to grow up to be a scientist and a doctor, you just grow up thinking, I'm half my mom, I'm half my dad. And, it's that simple, but it's so not that simple. So I'd love to get into talking about the pain factor because like Darren said, since we started the podcast, but also my entire life, you get told a bunch of different things. Redheads are more sensitive. If that's the case, I am not. I have a really high pain tolerance, as does my brother, who's also a redhead. And then I also want to talk to you a bit once we kind of break that down, because you said it doesn't really seem to actually be that at all. But I do also wonder if then when it comes down to the theory of redheads needing more anesthetic when we're put under, if that factors into it at all either. But let's not jump to that just yet. I just wanted you to know that that's coming. I'm gonna ask. So tell us, in your study, what did you find with this gene?
Sure. So we found that it was already known that within MC1R, there are several different variants. So the variants we're looking at, the units of variants that we look at in all my projects are single nucleotide polymorphisms. So it's just one nucleotide of one base pair of the DNA that's changed, and that results in these effects. But MC1R is it's not a very small gene, so it has thousands of these, and there are several variants that have been reported to result in red hair. So depending on which variant is causing your red hair, you will be more or less sensitive to pain. That is because each variant does not get transmitted from parent to offspring in isolation. We usually inherit chunks of DNA that are kind of linked together. And so some of the red hair variants sit on a chunk with a pain risk variant. And other red hair variants still within MC1R sit together with like pain protective variants. So depending on which, they're called haplotypes, depending on which haplotype you inherit from your parents, you'll be more or less sensitive to pain.
It's that easy.
Wow.
I mean, that's not easy, but you know what I mean? Like, so if that's the case, I think it's simply due to the fact that redheads are talked about more. People are fascinated by redheads. And so you could be a blonde that has a higher or lower pain tolerance. You could be a brunette that has a higher or lower pain tolerance. It really just depends on what genetics you get from your parents.
Yes, exactly. And so when I started my study, there were two studies that reported what you referred to, a higher need for anesthetic for dental procedures. And then there were two studies that reported the opposite, that redheads were less sensitive to pain. Now, they did not look at analgesia specifically, but the common denominator there was pain sensitivity. So that's what caused us to look at the entire genetic locus and see what gets inherited with what. And that's when we determined that red hair alone is not enough of a proxy for pain sensitivity.
We're not superhuman. Here, I've been debunked. I thought we were superheroes, but we're not.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I like it. I like it because and that's part of the reason that Darren and I do the show is, like, obviously we love like learning cool things about red hair and educating people about redheads, but it's also like kind of breaking the stigma as well, right? Because people do still feel very differently about people with red hair as opposed to people with any other kind of hair. So to know that, hey, guess what? Just like any other, you know, we're all exactly the same. Doesn't matter your hair color, doesn't matter your skin color. We're
Right.
all inside exactly the same people.
At least the variance that we observe is not tied to these like outward characteristics that we like to, you know, latch onto and say, oh, if you have X hair color, skin color, or eye color, that means no. It usually is. Well, so far it's never been that simple when we dug into it.
Is there any way to find out, like Tasha's color of her hair? Is there any way to find out which variant she possibly could have? Like, is there a DNA test that could tell what she has, which would signify whether she's on the higher end of pain or the lower end of pain?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in the paper, I report which variant we should look for that dictates or that affects pain sensitivity.
Tosh, that would be so cool.
That would be cool, and I'm game for it. I really am. But
is
yeah,
it a hair sample?
Is it? Yeah.
Sorry,
Can
Tosh.
I send you a chunk of my hair? I have
that
enough
what
to
it
go
is?
around. Trust me.
Yeah, for genotyping.
Huh. Well, it just makes me think. So I have a blonde child and a redhead child, and my blonde is the biggest wimp in the entire, like and she's also a drama queen. So it's really like, there's a whole lot going on there, but and maybe this is me misunderstanding what Darren's saying, but like the darker the hair color is, their potential for darker hair color, stronger, higher pain tolerance, and lighter hair color. But then we'd be like all blondes or mega wimps, and we can't, that doesn't make sense either.
No. So far, there's evidence that it doesn't matter what your hair color is. They're completely separate animals.
Debunked. I like it.
I do too. I love it.
That's the whole point of the show is to debunk these things. So
Yes.
It is pretty cool. However, I don't like not being superhuman. But anyway, that's fine. But it just, and I told this.
Superhuman is. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. It's all good. I was just gonna say that. Like when I had my second daughter, with my first daughter, my epidural didn't work, and then I found out after that redheads need more anesthetic. So then when my second daughter was born, I asked the anesthesiologist, and she said, yes, you need more. I'll stay here until you have no feeling left. and my daughter was born before she had a chance to finish the job. Oh. But anyway, but she was totally game for that. The redheads absolutely need to have more anesthetic. So that's probably something that needs a lot more debunking as well, because I'm sure that I know a ton of people believe that.
Yeah, I think it needs further investigation because it's often difficult to compare across studies because we don't use the exact same phenotype. They looked at anesthetic requirement and we looked at just having pain. So they are related, of course, but I agree with you. I think more studies need to be done before we can debunk that or confirm it.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
We've covered the anesthesiologist or the pain side of things. There's an article as well that was done by, is it Sharon Guynup? If you're familiar with that, back in January. And you're in that article. And one of the things that I read in that article, which is why I needed to reach out to you, was another one of these things that we talk about on the show. Redheads are not going extinct. That I'm going to tell you right now, from doing this show from day one, even when the business was started back in 2018, I never thought for once in my life that redheads are going extinct. I have 4 redhead kids, which is why we started this business in the first place. The question comes up all the time, and I don't know how many times I'm defending the redhead culture by saying, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, because I always follow that up with, like, I'm a scientist. My answer is 40% of the world's population carries the MC1R gene. So there's no possible way that redheads are going extinct. And I read that. So I don't know how credible that comment is, but people kind of go, "Oh, okay, fair." What do you know about that side of it with the extinct, redheads are going extinct?
I would say, based on everything we know, there's absolutely no reason to believe that redheads are going extinct, because you're right, the MC1R variants that lead to red hair are present in lots of different populations. In East Asia, for example, they're present in very high amounts. Up to 70% of the people carry one allele. Now, you do need two alleles, but the claim that I read is born out of this belief that it has to do with global warming and more exposure to UV radiation. But even there, the biggest cause of death there is melanoma. And that doesn't get diagnosed until you're in your 60s. So that's well past the reproductive age. So it wouldn't be that people would not, reproduce, not be able to pass on their genes before they get cancer. So I don't believe there's any reason to think that the gene's going extinct.
And I think in that article too, no, that's great. I appreciate that. And I think in that article too, I don't know if it was you who said this or if it was Sharon who had said this, but one of you said that this whole thing that redheads are going extinct might have very well been just a ploy that somebody decided to say redheads are going extinct, and they use that as a platform to put it on the internet and to spread it around the world. And that's exactly why, people will always say, well, redheads are going extinct, that kind of thing. Would you agree with that? That it was just somebody decided to say, you know what, I'm going to just say that redheads are going extinct and see where it goes.
It seems like it. I honestly hadn't heard about it until Sharon reached out and asked for an interview. It just like redheads are less or more sensitive to pain, it seems like the type of news that makes a splash and gets passed along. So I don't think it was a researcher who published an article that started
right.
it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a hair dye company that had started that to sell more hair dye. I thought that's where that had originated from.
Could very well be.
Not L'Oreal or whatever, but something. Some big hair dye company was like, buy our box of red hair, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, because you're going extinct. So
let's make everybody think you're a redhead, even though as far as I'm concerned, they've never been able to match actual natural red looking hair in a box of dye. That's for sure. But
tough to do. I'm very interested to have learned that you mentioned East Asia as a population that has a very high amount of MC1. Can I call it the MC1R? That's not the really technical term. It is, okay. Because I had read, when I started this business, we did a lot of research on red hair and the culture and everything else behind it. And it does say that one of the originations of red hair way, way, way back came from Asia. We all tend to think that the Asian hair is dark. But if you really look at Asian hair closely, in a lot of people, you'll see, under a certain light, you'll see a like red tint, like almost like red hair. Is it safe to say that those two things connect, and we're thumbs up on that theory?
Right. So we did notice like a dose response in the, so you can have 0, 1, or 2 red hair variants, right? You can either have, neither of them, none of them, or you could get it from one parent or you could get it from two. And we did notice that people who only had it from one parent were more likely to be blonde. Now, this is people of like white European descent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite possible that in East Asia, if you have one copy of the red hair allele, you may have this slight red tint that you're talking about that is visible in certain light. Yeah, on the background of black hair.
And those, you call them alleles?
Yeah.
You need two of those, right?
You need two of them. Yeah, two copies of the genetic variant.
Two copies.
Almost guarantee red hair, but one copy usually does not.
Right. And we have Darren has definitely posted before kind of the breakdown of how you get a ginger. It's like both parents have to carry. And that was a thing when my husband and I were thinking of having kids. They, his side of the family was like, there's never been a redhead. There is no redhead genes in our family. And then we got a redhead. So, obviously someone somewhere down the line he obviously carries the gene, right? So he's gotten it from somewhere. It just has never made its way through into the hair color.
We actually can't say with certainty. It could be that the allele that you carry and that you passed on to your daughter with red hair, it was strong enough. Oh. We don't completely understand the mechanics. All we can do is this is the probability that you will have red hair given your genotype. So there's not like it's not 100% certainty ever.
Even if two parents are redheads?
Exactly.
Wow.
Oh, that's just I'm blown. That's amazing because it makes me feel a lot better, but it also makes me understand something because even like my youngest with the red hair, she is me. Like she looks exactly like me. So I guess I won in that, genetic debate. I took over that one. But that's right. Quite interesting. And I like that theory being debunked as well, right? And I think that this extinct thing, I don't think so. But
no, and if you have two of the alleles, well, hopefully I'm saying that right. Will she pass that on to both of her kids, or is it just by fluke that they would get what Tosh has from her gene pool?
Well, so Tasha's daughter has one of Tasha's alleles and the other from her father.
Okay.
Right? But it is possible, once again, that regardless of who her partner is, her child will have red hair because that allele is, as we call, highly penetrant. If you have it, it's going to, cause red hair with 60% certainty, for example.
Which also makes sense. And maybe, okay, so does that also make sense then that not everybody's red hair is the same color of red? Yes. Like my brother and I have two different colors of red hair. That is cool. And Darren, like all four of your kids, none of them have the exact same color.
Nope, they're all different.
There's contribution from other genes that we've been able to demonstrate statistically. It's minute, but it could be causing these slight differences in the exact shade of red that you have.
Have you decided if you will further study into that particular gene? Is there anything else that you'd like to know that like, how do you decide on that, I guess? And then is it something that you want to keep going afterwards and try to keep discovering? Maybe after this conversation, you're like, man, these guys need to know the answers. I'm going to write another paper.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. There's still a lot of knowledge to be disseminated at the genetic level because I know there's interest in it. Like I said, currently I'm only studying pain genetics, and I've kind of let go of. I was telling Tosh before you joined that we used to be interested in one gene at a time and put a lot of focus on one gene's contribution. And right now, at least my work is all about the entire genome. So I haven't considered it before, but I've definitely really enjoyed this conversation. I would love to keep talking about it. And why not?
Yeah, that's right.
Why not? Because you have all the time in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. In my spare time.
Yeah.
I should write another article.
Yeah. This has been extremely eye-opening, mind-blowing, and I don't know what else to say about that. It's something we've been vying for a long time. So I can only thank you extremely much for taking the time out of your day to sit with us and have this conversation. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. This is an interesting topic.
Yeah.
And socials. Do you do social? Can people kind of find you anywhere, or do you prefer to keep that a secret?
I don't. I'm not on social media at
Okay,
all.
fair
You're
enough.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but I found you, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad that people could still find me, if they really have questions.
That's right. No, it was a mission of mine for a couple of weeks to find you. So I'm glad I did, because that one article that I read kind of just was like, okay, this is it. I need to reach out to this person, and hopefully they're going to have a want to come on the show. So anyway, yeah. So thank you again, Katerina. This has been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And my pleasure.
You've been listening to the Authentic Ginger Podcast.
Become a part of the Ginger Nation by liking, subscribing, following, and leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast was produced by Tosh Taylor of the Podcast Hub Productions. Find her online at podcasthub.ca.